I don't know why, but everybody and their mother has somehow spit on the grave of Godfather Part 3. There are ridiculous elements to this picture that frankly should never have been there. Joey Zaza is a horrible gangster name. Apologies to the great Joe Mantegna. But Al Pacino, he finishes off Michael Corleone with an almost pathetic inevitability, which I mean is the highest compliment, because that's what this comes down to. Just how inevitable the ending is. Surprising perhaps that those that expected another tribute to the gangster genre, but that dichotomy is what makes up the stuff of great stories. We find Michael an aging gangster, divorced from Kay and distant from his children and from his family. Like in all the previous movies, family does remain a key motif here. And guilt, it absolutely plagues Michael. In particular, the murder of his brother, Fredo.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
So he commits his wealth to charity and to the church in search of some kind of repentance. There's also a young Michael-like character here, and his name is Vincent Corleone, played by Andy Garcia. But as young as he is, he's also hot-headed and quick-tempered.
I'm not here to ask you for any kind of help. I could just kill this bastard. He's the one who needs the help.
So kill him.
Then later on, Michael's hopes for a legitimate family business meet a horrible obstacle in Joey Zaza, who's ultimately an ambitious gangster who seeks power as Michael once did. After an epic scene where Zaza kills a number of mafia bosses in an air raid, Michael just barely escaping with his life, Michael then knows in that moment that there's going to be no easy way out of this life that he was born into. So ultimately, this is a tragedy, but as it was always going to be. Look, the story is shakily told. It doesn't quite have the spirit or the punch or the execution of writing that its two sisters had. It's still an immigrant tale, but it feels cartoonish at times. And there are moments that don't feel authentic to Italian life, a key glory of the original two films. But it remains an immigrant story. Like, say, Al Capone or John D. Rockefeller, the most important figures of American society have always been gangsters in one way or another. You see, crime begins as a means to an end. We can all agree that it's faulted, but it's an understandable need to rise for success from rags to riches. And this is Michael's final act. It just couldn't be like when he was young and initially rising to power. That would have been entirely inauthentic. So what I really love about this film, when all else fails, are two things. First, Al Pacino's performance, bar none. And there are two particular scenes that stand out to me. First, after Zaza's raid, Michael suffers a horrible heart attack in his kitchen, but instead of just falling down and whimpering, he refuses to go down, trying so hard to get out of crime, realizing how impossible that's going to be in that one moment. Pacino unleashes this brutality and the rage that was always there behind Michael's calm and cool gangster persona. It's the exact duality that we always lust for in the character in the first place. Only we finally get to see the other side of that coin personified. He cries with rage just when you think you're out. They pull you back in. He pulls his hand into his chest with gravitas. Coppola holds still in this moment and allows the performer to suffer before our eyes. And it is difficult to portray true suffering. The weight of Michael's tale comes crashing down on him. But if that weren't delicious enough, there's the opera scene. We need a quick fill in the blank here. So Michael's son, he moves to Italy to be an opera singer. And the climactic sequence of this film takes place on opening night of his son's performance in Cavalleria Rusticana, which plays as this intense backdrop of our tragic set piece. So in this sequence, Michael is set to be murdered, and Vincent and Michael are the only ones who knows this, but he decides to go to the performance with his family anyway, as Vincent and his men search for the killer, who's known to be a skilled marksman. Then what plays out is an epic, suspenseful, operatic gem of movie history. Perhaps one of the best sequences to ever be committed to film, dare I say. Coppola keeps us on edge for somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, savoring each moment of our pain. We wonder if Vincent and his goons will find the killer in time. We cut against the opera, which provides the proper emotional weight of the three films combined as foolish men race against the clock. In this sequence, we share all of the pain we've ever felt for Michael and the Corleone family for years. And finally, for my movie buffs, you'll notice the symbol of falling down the stairs as a cinematic nod to James Cagney and Humphrey Bogart in their film Roaring Twenties. The rise always comes before the fall. Scarface is another great gangster picture. Famously, later on, it became an iconic symbol of hip-hop culture. And Trahezi might, De Palma focused on the sex appeal of the gangster. And it was only in the last few minutes where Scarface really had to pay for his sins. And it's easy to walk away from the movie admiring Scarface for what he was able to accomplish. And I don't mean to pick on the movie. That same element exists in the gangster milieu from the very beginning of cinema. We love to root for the charismatic bad guys. And Scarface is still a masterpiece, and a better film even than Godfather Part 3. But no one had really touched the topic of the aging gangster quite like Coppola does in Part 3. No one had given the life of sin and its price this much weight before. Recently, even Scorsese took a crack at the aging gangster in The Irishman. One wonders if he learned anything from the mistakes that Coppola made. But the value of Godfather Part 3 remains the cost. And I hate that even the actors that were in the movie trash it in public. I do understand Coppola may not have made the film for all of the right reasons. I mean, debt can make you make bad decisions. But I think that his heart and his dedication to the saga and more to the characters remained truthful even when other factors didn't. Jay-Z, Family Feud. A man that don't take care of his family can't be rich. I watched Godfather. I missed that whole shit. I missed the karma that came as a consequence. I'm asking you to give it another chance.